Hi everyone. I'm Najeeb. Welcome, Najeeb.
Thank you, Gareth. Thank you.
Salam alaikum. Thank you for joining us. So Najeeb will talk about agri-food in the Middle East, some opportunities, challenges, landscape on that side. So thank you all for joining us, and over to you, Najeeb.
Thank you, Gareth. Good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really delighted to participate in this event. Now I'm going to share my presentation. I'm going to present here presentation. I'm going to talk about the agri-food in the Middle East in terms of import, export, infrastructure, and investment opportunity. But before I start, I would like to provide some overview about Farrelly Mitchell in the next two slides. Our head offices are in Dublin. We're an Irish company. We operate in the region through three offices in Dubai, Riyadh, Accra. We established over 16 years. We have 300 plus sector specialists. Our strength in operational and strategic as well. We are reachable and global worldwide and has a global and local knowledge as well. We work with the corporate and government clients and through the value chain from farm to fork. This slide will give you flavor about our clients. We're working with funds, whether government or private equity. We're talking about government like PIF in Saudi Arabia, Public Investment Fund, or Mumtalakat in Bahrain, Dubai South. A private investment bank and fund like HSBC, Mizuho in Japan. We work with international corporate such as Nestle, Kerry, Kraft. We work with government entity as well in the region, such Saudi Arabian Green organization. And we work with international organizations such FAO and the World Bank. Now, I'll drive you through my presentation. We will talk about Saudi Arabia and the GCC overall. In the GCC first of all consists of 6 countries: Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Oman, and Qatar. It's considered the fastest growing region in the regions and the youngest demographic on the world. Population is around 57.6 million. Food market is around $130 billion. Annual agri-food imports, it's around $53 billion. When we can compare some facts to European countries, we'll find the population growth was 3.1, while in Europe it was 0.2. Age average in the GCC country 27, while in Europe it's 43. So we are talking about young nations. GDP 80,900, while in Europe 37,000, which means close to or similar income. Consumer spending, again, it's almost same or similar, relatively compared to Europe, 11,000, while in Europe it's 17,000. This is overall GCC. And Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia, as all you know, it's the largest petroleum country in the world, and we possess 16% of the reserves in petroleum, which really give flexibility to the government to spend to support other activities. In Saudi Arabia, we are facing some difficulty in agri sector. So the government in 1970 really began to concentrate effort in agriculture development. And our agriculture made around 2.6 of the Saudi national GDP in 2017. But for us, as we live in a desert country and with harsh weather climate, food security is a big issue. And it's important to balance the use of natural resources such as water with agriculture production. Here I'm presenting a case study to compare the import and export between Saudi Arabia and United Europe. While of course we are aiming to have such nice trade between GCC country and Africa in the future. Europe export to Saudi Arabia mainly the most important. They import a lot of things. We export a lot of things, but for us we consider about the wheat, which is around 15%. Flour, milk around 12. Cereals other than wheat and rice 8%. While European imports from Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, mainly it is fatty acid and waxes, where it's generated from the petroleum industry. In Saudi Arabia, the global food imports to the kingdom in 2018 were valued about $19.5 billion. If we rate the countries, we will find that Brazil, India, USA, United Arab Emirates, Turkey, Argentina, France, Egypt, Germany, and finally Sudan are the top ranked countries. We believe the trade between Saudi Arabia and Sub-Sahara Africa around $160 million imported from that part of Africa. For the African investors who wants to enter the GCC market, it's really a very extensive market, but it requires a deep analysis and should have a fully understand market dynamics and opportunities. We can summarize the approach by the following steps. Well, the first one should have a clear strategy. Number two, market contacts. You should have good knowledge with main player and cultural understanding. It's very important to the region, similar to Africa. The third point is formal contacts should be established before officially start the launching of the business. The fourth step, knowing the halal registration and the certification. The fifth step, distributor in place. You should manage to have a good connection with the logistic companies. The last one is to localize product range. When talking about the localized, we are talking about the names, the brands, something from the local content as well. the role Saudi Arabia and Africa. We want to understand more about the relationship between our country and the rest of Africa. And the Arabian Peninsula share a historic culture, economic, and linguistic link with the parts of sub-Saharan Africa. Africa has been considered a dynamic investing destination by Arab states, who have been major strategic investor in the region for a decade. We believe the trade between the 6 GCC countries and Africa was reached $17 billion in 2018. The investment approach in Saudi Arabia, we have two pillars, main pillars, through the government entities or through a private investor. But we are now, these figures consider from both. In 2017, Saudi Arabia invested $4.9 billion in the Horn of Africa. In 2018, Saudi Arabia pledged to invest $10 billion in South Africa over the coming years. An African Private Equity and Venture Capital Association survey revealed that 76 of the surveyed investors are planning to increase or to maintain their allocation over the next 3 years, which is really positive. I mean, to increase or to maintain the level of the investment on the region. In order to attract the GCC investors or the rest of the world to invest in Africa, we need to understand major points that usually it's asked by the investor themselves. Well, for any investor, why he should invest in Africa? Well, we noticed that first there was improved ranking of African nation and the World Bank 2020 Ease of Doing Business reports. The second, there was a great effort to increase the governance level. The third, which is very difficult, improving the infrastructure. I think Africa still need to improve more on infrastructure. The fourth, I think Africa has a huge, rich and natural resource, no doubt about it. It will attract all the investors. The fifth thing is implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. The last thing is to have to improve in microeconomic outlook. This is usually I made a very quick presentation. I kept the room for questioning. So the conclusion for us, how we can improve funding for agri-food, especially for SMEs. If we see the six main pillars, is we should consider to be more realistic application criteria for any equity or loan capital. I mean, to reduce the number of bureaucratic and to enhance the efficiency and the transparency through the government procedures. The second is to focus more on value chain. That it should be targeting funding at the primary production. The third one, it's very important for the investor. They have to consider the WACC, which is the weighted average cost of capital. Usually, it should be the minimum accepted rate to profit. The fourth pillar is equity funding, and then we have a greater availability of trade finance. Well, should be supported by a domestic and international trade mission. And the last one is equity guarantee to attract private investors, where Africa is very attractive to invest, but the most important thing that it's very hard to guarantee the equity or the transfer of currency or to guarantee flexible currency exchange rate. Thank you. That was my presentation, and I'm happy to hire.
Thank you for that, Najeeb. It was really good, interesting. Question for you from Amy. What is the best way to look at investment for private investors and government investors?
Well, I think if she is asking about GCC investor to invest in Africa, then usually it's the best approach to go to use the best practice, where you retain somebody, I mean, a well-known, connected firm, a consultant where they have very good connection, and then they will do the roadshow for the opportunity to publicize in front of the local, I mean, and the private and the government investment funds. So I think this is the best approach. Of course, typical approach using the embassy and trade mission, but usually this path usually will take longer, and sometimes do not attract the big investor or the investor that they want to do a quick decision. Hope I answer your question, Amy.
Okay, great, thanks. I have one question from my side. As we see, maybe like we see in media, there's lots about the water scarcity and water issues. Obviously, we know the reasons why, but just maybe because you're on the ground there, if you can give any input on that side, what is the current status there on water scarcity?
Well, Saudi Arabia is a vast country, and let's say Saudi Arabia and GCC, it's all the same. But unfortunately, we have a lack of suitable land to cultivate, as well as unsuitable climate in most regions during summer or winter. Bear in mind the unavailability of natural water, such as rivers, lake, which make investment in traditional agribusiness is unprofitable at all. So the contribution of agri business in Saudi Arabia to the GDP was, as I mentioned, 2.7. Well, the agri sector consumed 82% of the water, the reserved water in Saudi Arabia. So the government started in early 60s to encourage the investor to invest abroad, to secure the local demand. We are talking about the government supports the investment to invest at least for the main crops, such as green fodders, wheat, corn, barley. Of course, the government supports rice as well, edible oil, sugar, soybean. And for that, the government created an initiative where it gives a loan to the private sector, where they can invest around the world. We have a list of 36 plus countries on that list, 10 countries from Africa on that list. And of course, the list is open as far as the country can provide adequate level of transparency of information, political stability, currency flexibility of transfer of the currency, these kind of things. So in order to keep a good supply and reasonable supply to the Saudi Arabia, we invest abroad. And we believe this strategy is working perfect, and the government is increasing its funding towards have bigger and more investment abroad. And of course, we believe Africa should be our first trade partner due to the geographic location. We just East Africa is around less than 200 kilometers by sea to Saudi Arabia. So we believe Africa should be our main trade on agri sector. I hope I thank you.
Yeah, no, that was good. Thank you. Then there's one more question as well from Alpha on what specific criteria investors you're looking for from the region, from Africa, as I understand that.
Okay, if he's talking about to inject money in Africa by the GCC investors, we have to differentiate between private sector and public sector. A public sector, we have something in Saudi Arabia called Agriculture Development Fund, where they fund the Saudi investor to go and invest abroad, Africa part of that. And for the African companies, they cannot really get these loans. It is mandated only for the Saudi investor, subject to invested in Africa and somewhere else. And the private sector, there is a lot of opportunities. As a Farrelly Mitchell, we are working close with the major capitals and the sovereign fund on the region. They invest heavily in Africa. We are talking about public investment fund in Saudi Arabia, Mubadala in Abu Dhabi, Dubai South in Dubai, Mumtalakat in Bahrain. They invest really heavily, and they invest direct by providing by evaluating the risk opportunity, and they consider the main corps is the main attraction to them. They believe that whenever they have a good opportunity, subject to the political stability, then they go and invest. Hope I answered your question.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. If there's any other questions, or if that didn't answer your question, please leave a comment. Otherwise, maybe if you want to, Najeeb, you can still stay on the session for a few more minutes if there's any other questions that come up.
Sure.
But thank you. Thank you from our side, the AIC. Thank you for speaking at the Investment Food Forum, and hopefully we'll see you again in our future events.
Thank you.